Welcome to Story Station, episode 40. In this episode, you can listen to two African stories. The first story is titled, How the Tortoise Overcame the Elephant and the Hippopotamus. How could a small, weak tortoise possibly be stronger than an elephant and a hippopotamus? Listen to the story to find out. The second story is titled, The Hawk and the Owl. King told the hawk that he could have his pick of animals to feast on for all of eternity. Which animal do you think he picked? Hope you enjoy it! I'll read a story called How the Tortoise Overcame the Elephant and the Hippopotamus. The elephant and the hippopotamus always used to feed together and were good friends. One day, when they were both dining together, the tortoise appeared and said that although they were both big and strong, neither of them could pull him out of the water with a very strong piece of rope. And he offered the elephant 10,000 rods if he could draw him out of the river on the next day. The elephant, seeing that the tortoise was very small, said, "If I cannot draw you out of the water, I will give you 20,000 rods." So, on the following morning, the tortoise got some very strong rope and made it fast to his leg, and went down to the river. When he got there, as he knew the place well, he made the first knot fast around a big rock, and left the other end on the shore for the elephant to pull by. Then went down to the bottom of the river and hid himself. The elephant then came down and started pulling, and after a time he smashed the rope. Directly this happened, the tortoise undid the rope from the rock and came to the land, showing all the people that the rope was still fast to his leg, but that the elephant had failed to pull him out. The elephant was thus forced to admit that the tortoise was the winner, and paid to him the 20,000 rods, as agreed. The tortoise then took the rods home to his wife, and they lived together very happily. After 3 months had passed, the tortoise, seeing that the money was greatly reduced, thought he would make some more by the same trick. So he went to the hippopotamus and made the same bet with him. The hippopotamus said, "I will make the bet, but I shall take the water, and you shall take the land. I will then pull you into the water." To this the tortoise agreed, so they went down to the river as before, and having got some strong rope, the tortoise made it fast to the hippopotamus's hind leg, and told him to go into the water. Directly when the hippo had turned his back and disappeared, the tortoise took the rope twice round a strong palm tree which was growing near, and then hid himself at the foot of the tree. When the hippo was tired of pulling, he came up puffing and blowing water into the air from his nostrils. Directly when the tortoise saw him coming up, he unwound the rope and walked down towards the hippopotamus, showing him the knot round his leg. The hippo had to acknowledge that the tortoise was too strong for him, and reluctantly handed over the 20,000 rods. The elephant and the hippo then agreed that they would take the tortoise as their friend, as he was so very strong. But he was not really so strong as they thought, and had won because he was so cunning. He then told them that he would like to live with both of them, but as that he could not be in 2 places at the same time, he said he would leave his son to live with the elephant on the land, and that he himself would live with the hippopotamus in the water. This explains why there are both tortoises on the land and tortoises who live in the water. The water tortoise is always much the bigger of the two, as there are plenty of fish for him to eat in the river, whereas the land tortoise is often very short of food. The end. I hope you liked this story. The next story begins in a moment. I'll read a story titled The Hawk and the Owl. In the olden days, when Ephion was the king of Calabar, it was customary at that time for rulers to give big feasts, to which all the subjects, and all the birds of the air, and the animals of the forest, also the fish, and other things that lived in the water, were invited. All the people, birds, animals, and fish were under the king, and had to obey him. His favorite messenger was the hawk, as he could travel so quickly. The hawk served the king faithfully for several years, and when he waited to retire, he asked what the king proposed to do for him, as very soon he would be too old to work any more. So the king told the hawk to bring any living creature, bird or animal, to him, and he would allow the hawk, for the future, to live on that particular species without any trouble. The hawk then flew over a lot of country, and went from forest to forest, until at last he found a young owl which had tumbled out of its nest. This the hawk brought to the king, who told him that for the future he might eat owls. The hawk then carried the owlet away, and told his friends what the king had said. One of the wisest of them said, "Tell me when you had seized the young owlet, what did the parents say?" And the hawk replied that the father and mother owls kept quite quiet and never said anything. The hawk's friend then advised him to return the owlet to his parents, as he could never tell what the owls would do to him in the night time, and as they made no noise, they were no doubt plotting in their minds some deep and cruel revenge. The next day the hawk carried the owlet back to his parents, and left him near the nest. He then flew about, trying to find some other bird which would do as his food. But as all the birds had heard that the hawk had seized the owlet, they hid themselves, and would not come out when the hawk was near. He therefore could not catch any birds. As he was flying home, he saw a lot of fowls near a house, basking in the sun and scratching in the dust. There were also several small chickens running about and chasing insects, or picking up anything that they could find to eat, with the old hen following them and clucking, and calling to them from time to time. When the hawk saw the chickens, he made up his mind that he would take one, so he swooped down and caught the smallest in his strong claws. Immediately he had seized the chicken, and the cocks began to make a great noise, and the hen ran after him and tried to make him drop her child, calling loudly, with her feathers fluffed out, and making dashes at him. But he carried it off, and all the fowls and chickens at once ran screaming into the houses, some taking shelter under bushes, and others trying to hide themselves in the long grass. He then carried the chicken to the king, telling him that he had returned the owlet to his parents, and did not want him for food. So the king told the hawk that for the future he could always feed on chickens. The hawk then took the chicken home, and his friend who dropped in to see him asked what the parents of the chicken had done when they saw their child taken away. So the hawk said, "They all made a lot of noise, and the old hen chased me, but although there was a great disturbance among the fowls, nothing happened." His friend then said that as the fowls had made much palaver, he was quite safe to kill and eat the chickens, as the people who made plenty of noise in the daytime would go to sleep at night and not disturb him, or do him any injury. The only people to be afraid of were those who, when they were injured, kept quite silent. You might be certain then that they were plotting mischief, and would do harm in the nighttime. The end. I hope you enjoyed this story. Thank you for listening to Story Station. We are adding stories as frequently as possible, so check back often. We would love to hear your feedback and any questions you may have.